Welcome, everyone, to another captivating episode of Bible Explained. Today we embark on a profound journey through one of the most pivotal moments in biblical history, the call of Moses. In this episode, we'll cover Exodus 2:11 through to Exodus 3:6, which truly sets the stage for Moses' destiny and the eventual liberation of the Israelites from Egypt. Picture this. Moses, a man torn between two worlds, born an Israelite but raised in the opulence of Pharaoh's palace. The story heightens its drama when Moses, having grown up, ventures out to witness the burdens of his people. This is where our passage kicks off. Exodus 2:11. Moses steps out into the world and sees an Egyptian striking a Hebrew. The shock and horror of this moment ignites something deep within Moses. Perhaps it's the culmination of years of suppressed identity coming to the forefront, or an intrinsic sense of justice that he cannot ignore. Fueled by emotion, he looks around, sees no one, and strikes down the Egyptian, hiding him in the sand. This act, while driven by a noble impulse, marks the beginning of Moses' turbulent path. Now let's pause for a moment to consider the weight of what Moses has done. This wasn't just a spontaneous act of violence. It was a critical decision reflecting his inner turmoil and his unspoken allegiance to his people. It signifies a break from the Egyptian identity he'd been cloaked with and plants the seeds of his future role as a leader and a liberator. The next day, as we move to Exodus 2:13-14, Moses encounters two Hebrews fighting. He intervenes, attempting to reconcile them, asking why they were fighting each other. But to his surprise and dismay, one of them retorts, "Who made you a prince and judge over us? Are you intending to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" This rebuke reveals to Moses that his deed wasn't hidden as he had thought. The realization brings fear and clarity. Pharaoh will surely hear of it, placing his life in peril. In a swift turn of events, Moses flees to Midian. Here the lesson becomes clear. Even when motivated by a righteous cause, actions taken without divine guidance can backfire. His impulsive deed leads to isolation, a common theme where the path to purpose often traverses through deserts, both literal and metaphorical. We then travel with Moses in Exodus 2:15-22 to Midian, where his life takes a stark turn from that of an Egyptian prince to a humble shepherd. At a well, Moses again encounters an injustice, shepherds driving away the daughters of the priest of Midian. True to his character, Moses steps in to defend them, resulting in their return to their father, Reuel, who invites Moses to stay. Moses eventually marries Zipporah, one of Reuel's daughters, and starts a family. This period in Midian is another critical juncture. It is not just a mere exile, but a divine interlude where Moses transitions from a potential prince of Egypt to a shepherd preparing for a far greater role. His time here is synonymous with preparation, as the desert in Midian serves to refine his character, humility, and resilience. In modern terms, we can relate this to life's phases where setbacks become setups for a more significant purpose awaiting us. Now let's move to Exodus 2:23-25. As time advances, the Pharaoh dies, but the suffering of the Israelites continues. Their groaning under slavery reaches God, and the covenant made with their ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, springs into action. This passage beautifully encapsulates the divine timing that governs our lives. God's remembrance isn't about forgetting and then recalling. The expression highlights his faithfulness and the readiness of his plan to unfold. The opening of Exodus 3 heralds an awe-inspiring moment, and this is where the divine encounter occurs. Moses, now a shepherd for his father-in-law Jethro's flock, comes across Horeb, the mountain of God. In Exodus 3:2, an angel of the Lord appears to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Astonishingly, the bush burns but isn't consumed. Intrigued, Moses moves closer to examine this strange sight. Then, in Exodus 3:4, the narrative's peak moment arrives as God calls out to him from the bush, "Moses, Moses," and he responds, "Here I am." This encounter breaks the rhythm of Moses' mundane shepherd life, ushering him into his divine mission. God commands him to remove his sandals, for he's standing on holy ground, a simple act of obedience that signifies reverence and preparation for a sacred commission. God introduces himself as the God of Moses' forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses hides his face, afraid to look at God, a moment that captures the profound reverence and fear that often accompanies true divine encounters. This passage exemplifies an intense period of divine revelation and personal transformation for Moses. He is called not because he is perfect or powerful, but because he is chosen. The flames in the bush symbolize God's purifying presence, a presence that purges, refines, and sets apart. Moses' journey from witnessing an injustice, fleeing to Midian, and tending sheep wasn't a series of random events. They were strategic steps in God's blueprint for liberation. In modern reflection, many of us experience phases of life that seem disconnected or laden with hardship, jobs that seem ordinary, or actions that appear unnoticed. But like Moses, there's an underlying divine narrative, one that converges at God's perfect timing. A moment comes for each of us when the bush burns without consuming, calling us to higher purpose and action. In this episode, we traverse from Moses' crisis of dual identity, his flight to Midian, and his encounter with God at Horeb. It's a poignant reminder that our journeys, filled with apparent detours and desert moments, are purposed. The burning bush in our lives may appear when least expected, igniting calls that transform us and the world around us. Stay tuned, because in our next episode, we'll dive deeper into Moses' mission and the dialogue between him and God that sets the stage for the Exodus, one of the most significant rescue missions in history. This is where Moses, empowered and commissioned, begins the journey from shepherd to deliverer, from Midian's anonymity to Egypt's confrontation. You won't want to miss it. Until then, reflect on your journey, for there may be a burning bush ready to capture your attention.